Bishop Rabbi Reda the Rov. I'm Harvey Bolofsky. I'm the senior rabbi of the Golders Green Synagogue. And it's my sad duty and privilege to be Hesped, to eulogize my friend, colleague, long-standing shul treasurer, and one of our shul's most extraordinary members, Jonathan Davies, Zechrono Livrocha. The background on which I've drawn has kindly been provided by Neil and Suzanne, Jonathan's brother and sister-in-law and closest relatives, and they're complemented by my thoughts as well as with those provided by Naomi, our current shul chair. Jonathan was born in London in 1962 to Carmel and Ted Davies. He grew up first in the London borough of Harrow. Then when Ted's work took him to Gravesend in 1974, the family relocated to New Barn in Kent. Jonathan studied law at Christ Church College, Oxford, and then qualified as a solicitor. He was then living in Brighton, where the family moved following Ted's retirement. Jonathan moved to London in 1986, first to Tottenham, then Hendon in 2001, and he landed in Golders Green in 2005. In his professional life, he was a successful corporate lawyer, a partner and head of the financial services team at a large city law firm, Reynolds Porter Chamberlain, having joined as an articled clerk after he left Oxford. Jonathan was a proud Liberal Democrat Party activist. He was a councillor for Childs Hill in the 1990s, stood 3 times for Parliament in Finchley and Golders Green, and was elected as chair of the English party, the Liberal Democrats, in 2010. He devoted countless hours to campaigning for and supporting the Liberal Democrat Party. In a tribute, a colleague from the Lib Dems described Jonathan as quiet, unassuming, deep-thinking, and a true liberal. Jonathan was also long-standing deputy at the Board of Deputies and treasurer to the Liberal Democrat Friends of Israel. Jonathan took early retirement in 2011 to enjoy travelling and devote more time to political and religious activities. He travelled all over the world to India, China, Russia, Japan, Egypt, South Africa, South America, the USA, much of Europe, and many times to Israel. I recall conversations with him about kosher provision on cruises, when Shabbos ends close to the poles, and how to handle the international date line. Jonathan was enjoying his retirement, his many interests, politics, and community life, when he was cruelly struck last year with a rare tumour that eventually led to his passing a few days ago. Now, in thinking of a Torah source that might capture the essence of Jonathan, I was drawn to Ovos chapter 5, the Ethics of the Fathers, in which the sage Shammai recommends 3 things, the middle one of which is Emor ma'at va'aseh harbe, say little and do a lot. For those who knew Jonathan well, saw him every day as I did, who watched him in action, it's a perfect quote, because Jonathan was a real doer. He didn't faff around like so many people who think they're doers, but he got on with the job at hand, whatever that might be. Whether in his role with the Lib Dems or as a well-respected office holder at his residents' association, indeed everything that he was involved in, he was available and willing to do whatever needed to be done, quite literally. But it was at our shul, his beloved Golders Green Synagogue, that I and so many others came to know, love and admire Jonathan. As we said, he arrived in 2005, and he soon became an active and eventually pivotal member of our shul, serving for many years as an outstanding treasurer, attendee and supporter of every minyan activity, dinner and shul we put on. In this, he fulfilled the previous phrase of the Mishna, the first of Shammai's comments, Aseh Toros Okeva, make your Torah fixed, because when he was in town, he never missed my Gemara share, to which I usually drove him from shul, or the Shabbos afternoon share, although he did often sleep through that one. We are delighted that his Shas, his multi-volume Talmud, now resides in our shul library, and it is used regularly. And Jonathan's friends acquaintances, admirers in our community and beyond experience Jonathan always smiling, always welcoming, always happy to see people, pleased to be doing things for others in our community and beyond. Indeed, the Mishna ends, the third maxim of Shammai, which means you should receive everyone with a happy countenance. You see, doing and smiling, the second and third parts of this Mishnah, are linked. The ability to be happy, greet people with equanimity, stems from being a doer, the need to reach out, act for others in every possible way, make them happier by doing things and making them feel good by interacting with them. Rabbeinu Yonah, one of the great medieval commentators on the Mishnah, points out that the ability to promise allegiance to something, whatever it may be, to a cause, to an organization, to friends, and then get on with the job without saying too much, is the path of the pious and leads to positive and friendly relations with others. Naomi, our chair, pointed out to me that Jonathan displayed an extraordinary measure of esteem for others, those who were younger, less experienced, less knowledgeable. Yet he made everyone feel comfortable. He retained his objectivity, and despite his often superior knowledge and ability, was able to listen to, consider, and respect the views of others. This ability to connect non-judgmentally with others extended to Jonathan's own reputation as a consummate host, inviting new members of the shul to his home, as well as being a desirable guest. In fact, he ate with my family on many memorable occasions. It's also worth mentioning at this point the exceptional friendship that he enjoyed with Peter and Jackie Zinkin, both of whom are here. Political adversaries, close friends, comrades in shul, they shared countless meals and conversations in the UK and in Israel. And Peter, as well as Neil and Suzanne, visited Jonathan frequently over the past year, despite the challenges posed by the pandemic. To properly understand these disparate parts of the Mishnah and to use it as a lens to correctly appreciate Jonathan, one needs to see that Mishnah as a gloss to the previous Mishnah, spoken by Shammai's colleague and sparring partner Hillel. Hu haya omer, this is referring to Hillel, and when the Mishnah says haya omer, it means he often said. It was a constant phrase. Im ein alili, if I am not for myself, mili, who will be for me? Ukasha'ani la'atzmi, but if I'm only for myself, ma'ani, what am I? V'im lo yachshov, but if not now, emosai, when? Jonathan had a very strong sense of self. He knew who he was. He had clear ideas, a definite political, religious and cultural identity. That's the first part of the Mishnah. Yet he knew that he could only truly be himself by contributing to others. He could only be himself by doing things, as we said, if I'm only for myself, then what am I? In this regard, I'd like to highlight Jonathan's utter reliability in every respect. A busy man, Jonathan was unfailing in his dependability in every possible way, just to come along to the shul, to lock, unlock, donate, raise funds, deal with problems. I recall many occasions when I managed to set the shul alarm off and he came to sort it out. In 2017, I gave him my shul keys just on the day I went on sabbatical, and immediately realised I'd locked my coat in the building and I no longer had the keys. And of course, Jonathan was there to sort it out for me. Jonathan also exemplified the final stanza of the Mishnah. Vim lo yachshov emosai, and if not now, then when? He didn't just do what was needed, but was there when needed to offer me advice, to the executive of our shul, to line manage our office staff, to resolve the complex logistical and financial issues around setting up our nursery, for which the leaders of the nursery remember Jonathan very fondly. He never lost his cool and very often disarmed contentious situations in a careful and measured way. And as treasurer, for some of those years, Peter would say de facto chair of the shul, Jonathan showed an unfailing level of commitment and support to the team. That's the rabbinic team and to the exec, which is quite extraordinary. And by some magic means, unlike every other treasurer I've worked with, he always said yes to my financial requests while still balancing the books. He was also a man with good ideas, creative solutions, able to reformulate traditional concepts in a way that would be appropriate and acceptable to the audience and the community. He was open to innovation, again, an appreciation of what was needed achshav, now. Like Hillel, Jonathan knew who he was and what he believed in, and that drove him to reach out to others right now, as and when. To this, Shammai adds that sense of self and other leads to a fixed commitment to Torah and self-improvement, activism rather than faffing around, and a warm, inclusive, welcoming nature. In short, a Jonathan Davies. There isn't a single day that goes past on which I, my rabbinic team, and so many others from my community don't miss him and reflect on the enormity of his loss. His presence is felt in every fibre of our community and will be for many years to come. So Jonathan, Yonasan ben Yisrael, farewell to an extraordinary person, activist, community leader, inspiration, and we wish Neil and the family long life. I end with a reflection from the government minister, Lord David Wilson of Tredegar. Recalling Jonathan's contribution as a solicitor and counsellor, David said, to both roles, he brought considerable knowledge, meticulous attention to detail, and an indefatigable determination to do what he thought was right. May his memory be for a blessing. Amen.